I'm going to show you a little movie which represents some work that I did with my colleague, Dr. John Derrick, a couple of years ago here at RMIT, where we used Second Life as a platform to construct a virtual art gallery. And you'll see in the video that the show was put on at real art galleries. In front of us here we've got Melbourne Art Rooms in Port Melbourne, also known as Mars Gallery. And the show was also put on at the Pratt Institute of Art and Engineering in New York and at a gallery called Gallery Seikiko in the Chelsea district of New York. And the Americans liked the show very much because they appreciated the way in which we were challenging the rules about what is real, I guess. Art always challenges the rules about what is real and what is not. But in this particular show, you will see that we took real artworks that had been hanging on a wall or a sculpture that had been in the middle of a floor and prints, and we digitised them. We sampled them and we put them into a completely virtual context, an online context where the best way that people could experience them was as an avatar, which meant that visitors to the gallery could either log on from a remote location, such as in another country or in another space altogether, and could interface with the environment as an avatar. They digitised themselves, in other words. So it's about humans digitising themselves in order to go into a digital virtual world and experience digital virtual art. We've got a bit of background. I'm just going to flip back to a discussion of the Dark Luminance showing, which was about a big gallery. This is the Mars Gallery, but it looks a lot like the gallery that we worked with in both galleries in New York. It's a generic gallery space. There are some paintings on the wall, and there is also here, this is a large-scale projection. This image here, you'll see the avatars that were on screen before. That's John and myself, or our avatars, rather. You see I refer to them as us, even though it's not really us. They feel like us. They are our avatars. We are very close to them. This is what happens in these environments. So there we are, flying around, and there are probably a couple of computers down here and a couple of projection boxes. And there are paintings and sculptures placed around the environment so that visitors to the gallery could come in, they could look at the real art, and then they can log on as avatars and enjoy the artwork that was happening in a virtual space. This was the prototype virtual gallery designed by Daniel Mounsey, which we worked with at first, and which we thought, yeah, let's put the whole thing up in space, because we were so entranced with the spaciousness of the virtual world. But we found that the avatars couldn't find their way to it. A bit like trying to find your way here today, into this room. It was quite challenging. Only in this case, it was quite the opposite. To get in here, you had to negotiate a number of boxes. You had to navigate a bunch of Cartesian spaces and corridors in order to arrive at this space. The challenge with this particular virtual space was that there was no Cartesian grid. We set the avatar free in space, which was just too much space for the avatar to deal with, and they kept getting lost. So that's an interesting study in extremes.
Yeah. And with 3D sort of programs too, when you're building these objects in 3D programs, you actually get the grid as a reference. So without that, it is very sort of disorientating.
Yes, so these, for example, are sculptures and paintings sort of hanging in midair. And the reference points around them were these very interesting and beautiful, we think, abstract spaces. They had chains hanging from them.
And the idea is with the avatar to actually fly and look at the works of art up close. You can get right up close.
Yeah, thanks for pointing that out. We forgot to mention that. Your avatar's flying most of the time in Second Life. You do a bit of walking, a bit of running, a lot of flying, depending on how much ground you have to travel. And you can also teleport inside a virtual world. So that if I want to go and visit Amsterdam inside the virtual world, I can just teleport over to Amsterdam for the afternoon quite easily, just at the press of a button. My avatar doesn't have to fly all the way to Amsterdam. I can just take myself there in a moment. Here is a wireframe of the gallery that we ended up with. We decided that the aerial gallery was a little bit too abstract, and so John got to work with the wireframe and created a geodesic dome, which Buckminster Fuller would have loved to see his geodesic dome in a virtual world. And John brought the gallery down to earth in Second Life, so to speak, underneath the dome. We thought that it would give the gallery a stronger sense of identity. Then, for a bit of a joke, we even put a Mars facade into the virtual space. But if you walk through that door there, through the Mars gallery front door, it's like a stage set, isn't it, John?
Yeah.
To create a fake gallery in a fake gallery.
You can actually walk through the doors, but you come out the other side.
It's not what you expect. It's possible to create all kinds of tricks. A lot of the joy, a lot of the fun of virtual worlds is the ironic jokes that you can play on the difference between the real and the virtual. There's that painting of Julie's in the background there, just to give you an idea of the scale. It's way bigger than the avatars, and there's a little board there where you can write poetry and things like that. So we wanted to empower the avatar, as John said before, to be able to leave marks in this world. There's the sculpture of the spinning orbs, and there's the cave painting on the left.
And with the spinning balls, you actually touch them and turn them on, so they rotate, and they listen to sound. Can you do that?
You can ride them, can't you?
Yeah, yeah.
You can jump on them and take a ride, which is something that you can't do in most art galleries with the sculpture. Okay, this is the set of prints by Jane Hall, which you remember before from the video, and if the avatar touches that wall, the whole configuration of the wall will change and the colours will change. So again, it's very interactive. The idea was about empowering the avatar to interact with the artwork, to make the artwork move, to make it change.
And I would add too, and the idea of 2D art is becoming immersive. So the avatar is actually immersed in the artwork in 360 degrees. So the idea is that's suggesting where artwork is going.
Right. So back to this idea that in future we will be surrounded by the files. I refer to them as the files. The files are the digital information that constitutes the illusion. How do we transport the files? How do we treat the files? How do we construct the files? In future we will be surrounded by the files. So at the moment we're all very entranced by our screens. We're all very focused on the screens. This is the Baroque moment of the screen. There appears to be screens everywhere, and that's a sure sign that the screen is about to disappear. It's a bit like the horse and buggy.
Yep.
The horses and buggies were crowding the streets before the T-model Ford. That's another view of the prints.
And with the camera viewpoint, so you actually move the camera viewpoint to any angle. You can go through objects, you can actually go through the land into water, so you can actually change your viewpoint from any angle. Where with say a 2D work on the wall, you can't. Just see the centre of what the artist has sort of done.
Has given you,
Yeah,
and it's static,
yeah.
and it never changes.
Yeah.
This work is ever changing, depending on the avatar viewpoint. So it's a complete cognitive shift, really, in the description of visual art. This is another look at John's work up close, John Derrick's paintings there in the background, and you remember how they were all in motion and how those layers and textures were moving across each other over time.
And I was sort of in the real gallery space. I actually had a real painting, projecting the textures back over the real painting. So there I was playing with the real and virtual, and trying to mesh the two different sort of art forms, the two different pictorial space, so 2D Renaissance space, and meshing that with 3D Cartesian space. And does it come up with something new? So I'm asking questions of what's more important. Is the artist touch or the virtual? Can I import that into a virtual world? So I was asking all those questions with this, but within Second Life, it was all virtual. But with the real paintings, with the projection over top of that, there was real and virtual.
You call this cave painting?
Yeah, I suppose the idea, CAVE stands for Cave Audio Visual Environment, and it's a references early cave painting as well, like the marks made on caves, and then being immersed in a cave, so you're surrounded by it.
Immersed in a cave and surrounded by it. Yeah, because I'm not sure if any of you saw the great documentary by Werner Herzog a couple of years ago. Cave of Dreaming, in which he pointed out that the cave is, of course, the prototypical location for artistic, sacred, ritual activity. So this is a virtual cave, isn't it? We're really just retreating to a kind of virtual cave. Plato's cave, thank you very much. Of course, we need that reference too. There are the paintings on the wall in the centre of the miasma of the digital illusion.
So yeah, the paintings in the centre are the real paintings, and I paint them live too. So one of I think is important is artists engaging with real life. So I have people sitting for me in my studio and paint them live, and then digitise the portraits and project that back over top of them.
So, you know, like many large exhibition spaces on Second Life, this virtual gallery is designed in a theme park style, you could say, to encourage a sense of play and experimentation. The avatar finds herself under a transparent dome in an open space that resembles a small sports field. And it's important to notice here that the avatar functions as a kind of a camera, really, a moving camera whose viewpoint is free to roam within the space. So when I'm actually physically within this space, if I want to get a close-up, I have to go up and look at the painting on the wall. However, my avatar can just project herself, can project her vision anywhere in the space. My eyes can fly. My avatar self doesn't have to fly with my eyes. I can take my vision through the space. That's also another very important development in this whole discussion of how to design for navigation within a 3D space.
And you can see actually here, that's what the real human does. They activate these camera controls and you can change position.
Yeah.
I was going to say too, you can actually, the avatar, you can move the avatar and there's a viewpoint from the avatar, but there's actually a viewpoint from the human too. You can change, you can work with both.
Yes, indeed. So it's a very flexible environment for visual effects, and you're looking at orthoscopic, multiscopic and panoramic imagery inside this environment. Okay, I'm going to close for questions in a sec. That's interesting. That's the graffiti wall by René Van Can, where it's possible for the avatar to actually spray around a bit of graffiti of their own.
And the idea there too is actually handmade graffiti that can be imported into a virtual world.
Yeah.
And then interact it so that you can touch the wall and it reveals graffiti. And then the avatar has a paint can to can actually paint 3D space.
Okay, so that I've skipped over quite a bit of the tech stuff, but you can see that what we were sort of interested in exploring in the research aspect of this. There's a whole layer of research that comes out of this project, and it was about the taxonomy of virtual displays. And this useful tool helped us distinguish between a mixed reality environment and a completely virtual environment. It's clear that we've got to define this kind of technology as more than just a display tool. It's a space where the real and the virtual merge, where time, animation and the avatar's enhanced perspective allow or challenge our understanding of pictorial space. And all of this takes us beyond our real human capacity, as it were, because when I act through my avatar, I can extend my sense of presence in the virtual world by making my own marks in that world. And it's not, certainly in a gallery space, it's not possible to make those marks. I think we'd like to thank you very much for being here today. Thank you.